Determine the temperature rise necessary to induce buckling in a 1 meter long circular rod of diameter 40 mm shown in the figure below. Assume the rod to be pinned at its ends, that is, both ends hinged, and the coefficient of thermal expansion as 20 into 10 power minus 6 per degree Celsius. Assume uniform heating of the bar. It is a 1993 GATE 2 mark question, and they are asking that temperature rise necessary to induce buckling. Okay, here you can see it is a column which is both ends hinged, and the expansion is actually restricted completely in only one direction. So the expansion type is completely restricted expansion. As we have studied earlier, for completely restricted expansion, in the case of uniform heating, particularly uniform heating, that is, the temperature rises uniform throughout the column, that is, throughout this bar, the reaction which is necessary to induce a thermal stress is alpha delta EA. But in the case of linear variation, that is, the temperature rises linearly varying, in such a case, the reaction is given as alpha delta EA by 2. It is an additional point which you need to remember. Okay, here since it is uniform heating, we are taking R as the reaction as alpha delta EA. Okay, alpha delta EA is the reaction induced due to increase in temperature. So there may be a possibility of buckling if this reaction is greater than the minimum Euler critical buckling load, which is given as N into pi squared into EI min by L squared. We know that N is 1 in the case of both sides hinged. So pi squared EI min by L squared is the minimum critical buckling load, and if the reaction due to expansion, that is thermal rise, that is temperature rise, is greater than the buckling load, then there is a possibility of buckling. So alpha delta EA must be greater than or equal to pi squared EI min divided by L squared for buckling. Using this equation, just by substituting the values from the given question, you can directly find the temperature rise. You will be getting E to be cancelled out. So alpha is given as 20 into 10 power minus 6 per degree Celsius, and A is, since it is 40 mm diameter rod, it will be pi by 4 d squared, and pi squared is there, and we know the length is 1 meter, and I minimum for circle in x direction and also with respect to x axis and also with respect to y axis, it is constant, pi by 64 d power 4. So just by substituting all these value, you can get the temperature rise. The del T will be greater than or equal to one small value. So the minimum value will be 49.35 degrees Celsius. If above 49.35 degrees Celsius is the temperature rise, then surely the setup will buckle. A free bar of length L is uniformly heated from 0 degrees Celsius to a temperature T degrees Celsius. Alpha is the coefficient of linear expansion and E the modulus of elasticity. The stress in the bar is, it is a 1995 GATE 1 mark question, and it is clear that it is a free expansion question. So the stress is 0. This can be said directly if you have watched my earliest videos regarding this thermal stress concept. Okay, but still I will explain these three cases. Here you can see free expansion means the bar is free to expand. In such a case, the thermal strain there will be due to temperature rise, which is alpha delta. But since there is no restriction, the strain due to the reaction caused by restriction is 0. So since epsilon long is 0, thermal stress will be 0. Now we will be going for completely restricted expansion in one direction. This happens when the rod is held rigidly between two pinned supports or two fixed supports. In such a case, the expansion is restricted. That is, the thermal strain is restricted. In such a case, the restricted thermal strain happens to cause a negative compressive strain. For example, if there is a temperature rise, the rod will try to expand, but since there is restriction, there will be a negative compressive strain resulting in a thermal stress, which is compressive in nature, given as E alpha delta. Now we are going for partially restricted expansion in one direction. It is similar to a cantilever beam type. One end is fixed and the other free end is at a particular distance from a fixed support. In such a case, there will also be a thermal strain which is alpha delta due to temperature rise. But this alpha delta is not completely allowed to expand. That is, this strain is not happening completely. It is happening up to a limit which is lambda by L. Lambda by L is the strain which is permitted. So we are minusing the permitted strain from the actual strain to happen to get the strain which is happening in the opposite direction. So we will be getting epsilon longitudinal is equal to alpha TL minus lambda by L, which is compressive nature. So this longitudinal strain will be causing a stress which is alpha TL minus lambda by L into E. Remember, this T and this T are similar to del T. All are temperature rise, that is the temperature difference. T is not different from del T. To note the to write this within the smaller area, I have used just T, but this T and this alpha del T are both one and the same. Okay, now I have explained three cases, and from this question you can see that it is a free bar of length, so it is a free expansion, so eventually the thermal stress will be 0. A uniform slender cylindrical rod is made of a homogeneous and isotropic material. The rod rests on a frictionless surface. The rod is heated uniformly. If the radial and longitudinal thermal stresses are represented by sigma r and sigma z respectively, then they are asking the magnitudes. It is a 2005 GATE 1 mark question. You can see that the given condition is free expansion. It is a uniform slender cylindrical rod which rests freely on a frictionless surface. In such a case, there is no restriction to expansion. Then it comes under free expansion. So there is thermal strain, but there is no restriction to that particular thermal strain, both radially and longitudinally. They haven't mentioned about radial restriction or longitudinal restriction. It is totally free. So there is no restriction to that strain both radially and longitudinally. Eventually, there is no stress either radially or longitudinally. So sigma r is equal to 0, sigma z is equal to 0 is the right answer. A steel rod of length L and diameter D fixed at both ends is uniformly heated to a temperature rise of del T. The Young's modulus is E and the coefficient of linear expansion is alpha. The thermal stress in the rod is, here you can see it is fixed at both ends. So it comes under completely restricted expansion in one direction. It is a 2007 GATE 1 mark question. Just by knowing the condition, you can directly say that the thermal stress is E alpha del T. So C is the right answer. But still, I would like to explain that in case of uniform heating and fixed at both the ends in single direction, we know that strain epsilon TH, that is del L by L, is equal to alpha del T. So this is being restricted and this results in a longitudinal strain which is alpha del T. So the thermal stress developed due to restriction in strain is E into epsilon, which is epsilon longitudinal, which is E alpha del T. This is being explained earlier. So just by knowing all the three cases, it is very easier to answer this question and the previous question. A stepped steel shaft shown below is subjected to 10 Newton meter torque. If the modulus of rigidity is 80 gigapascal, the strain energy in the shaft in Newton millimeters. They are asking the strain energy in terms of Newton millimeter. It is a 2007 GATE 2 mark question. Since it is subjected to a torque, we need to find the strain energy in terms of torque itself. Consider this as two different bars, that is two different bars in series connection. So for stepped, that is compound or series shaft, we know that the load applied at the extreme end, that is if the load is applied only at the extreme end in case of stepped compound or series shaft, we will be having the load constant throughout the bar, that is throughout the series connection. So we are having T to be constant throughout the shaft. Okay, we must know what is strain energy in case of torsion. What is strain energy actually? Strain energy is actually the energy stored due to deformation. That is deformation due to the load applied. Torque will be applied and this torque will cause a deformation and this deformation will be resulting in a storage of certain strain energy. This straining causes an energy storage which is referred to as strain energy. So U is equal to integral T square dx by 2gj. You must remember this. This is applicable for a shaft subjected to a torque, constant torque. So we know that T is constant. So T squared and G is constant and J is constant for a particular shaft. We are calculating for both the shaft. Remember, we are considering two different shafts are connected in in series. So we are considering t squared by 2g j1 for the first shaft and t squared by 2g j2 for the second shaft. 0 to 100, 100 to 200. See, I have mentioned here. We know that J1 is given as pi by 32 d power 4 just by substituting pi by 32 and d power 4, and T is given as 10 Newton meter. Converting it into Newton millimeter, it will be 10,000 Newton millimeter. So T squared into L is 100 mm, and G is given as 80 gigapascal. You can write it as 80 into 10 power 3 megapascal, which is actually 80 into 10 power 3 Newton per millimeter square. So we know all the values, and just by solving and substituting and solving, we will be getting the strain energy of this whole shaft. Remember, strain energy in the case of a shaft subjected to pure torsion, that is a simple torque, is given as integral t squared dx by 2gj, where dx is the length considered. A solid steel cube constrained on all six faces is heated so that the temperature rises uniformly by del T. If the thermal coefficient of the material is alpha, Young's modulus is E, and the Poisson's ratio is nu, the thermal stress developed in the cube due to heating is. They have asked the thermal stress due to heating. It is a 2012 GATE 2 mark question. You may get confused that since it is constrained, it is completely restricted expansion in one direction. But remember, we have known only two completely restricted expansion in one direction, but it is constrained in all six phases, which means it is completely restricted expansion in all the three directions. So we must be cautious. Completely restricted expansion in all directions means that is restricted in x, y and z directions. We know that epsilon x, that is strain in x direction, to be minus alpha del t. Similarly, in y direction also it will be alpha del t, in z direction also it will be alpha del t. But why we are considering three values? Because in x direction there will be an expansion. Due to that expansion and due to the restriction in that particular expansion, there will be a reaction. Also remember, in y direction there will be expansion. That expansion is also restricted, so there will be a reaction in y direction. Since there is a reaction in y direction, that reaction will cause a strain. Let us consider that strain to be a longitudinal strain in y direction. That longitudinal strain will be associated with the lateral strain in x direction. Always all longitudinal strains are associated with the lateral strain. So y direction's longitudinal strain will cause a lateral strain in x direction. Similarly, z direction's longitudinal strain will cause a lateral strain in x direction. So all these strains contribute towards the reaction in x direction. So we are considering the strains due to x direction longitudinal strain, y direction longitudinal strain and z direction longitudinal strain. We know that sigma x by E is the longitudinal strain in the particular x direction. These are lateral strains due to y direction strain and z direction strain. So we are multiplying nu into sigma y by E minus nu into sigma z by E. Since all the sides are expanded uniformly with the uniform thermal stress by constraining in all directions, we will be having same stress in x, y and z. So sigma by E minus nu into sigma by E minus nu into sigma by E. So we will be getting 1 minus 2 nu into sigma by E. So sigma is equal to E into minus alpha del T divided by 1 minus 2 mu, which is A. Remember, the strain in y and z will also contribute a strain in x direction. We know that strain causes stress. Since there is a longitudinal strain in x direction, we are having three strains in x direction. So we are adding up the strains to form the stress. Okay. Two threaded bolts A and B of same material and length are subjected to identical tensile loads. If the elastic energy stored in bolt A is 4 times that of the bolt B and the mean diameter of bolt A is 12 mm. The mean diameter of bolt B in MMS. They are asking mean diameter of bolt B and they have given elastic energy relation. So we must relate elastic energy with respect to diameter. Okay, it is a 2013 GATE 1 mark question. We must know strain energy of a component subject to an axial load. Similar to torsional load, here instead of T we are using P squared into dx divided by, instead of Gj we are using axial rigidity AI. There we have used torsional rigidity Gj. Here we are using axial rigidity AI since it is an axial load. So strain energy of a component subjected to an axial load is given as U is equal to 0 to L P square dx divided by 2ae. P is the axial load acting. Here P is constant. So you will be getting P squared L by 2ae. Remember this formula. Okay. So we are to compare the Bolt's strain energy. They have given that bolt A is 4 times that of bolt B. So UA by UB is given as 4 UB by UB. UA is the strain energy of bolt A. UB is strain energy of bolt B. They have given 4 times. So 4 times of strain energy of bolt B is equal to strain energy of bolt A. So 4UB by UB is equal to P squared L by 2AE. P squared L by 2A. They have given the length are same, the material is the same and the load is same. So only the area varies. So it will be 1 by AA by 1 by AB. So it will be AB by AA. Pi by 4 gets cancelled. It will be dB squared by dA squared. dB squared is diameter of bolt B and dA squared is diameter of bolt A. Just by solving, you will be getting the diameter to be 24 mm. A hypothetical engineering stress strain curve shown in the figure has three straight lines PQ, QR, RS with coordinates P of 0, 0, Q of 0 0.2, 100, R of 0 0.6, 140 and S of 0 0.8, 130. Why it is hypothetical? Because we are having three straight lines. But the maximum possibility is one single straight line which represents the Hooke's law, and beyond that the curve will be slightly curved and bent. It will not be a straight line. So it is hypothetical engineering stress strain curve. Q is the yield point, R is the ultimate tensile strength point, and S the fracture point. The toughness of the material in megajoule per meter cube is, they have asked the toughness in megajoule per meter cube, but actually toughness is given only in joules, that is just megajoules. But here they have given as megajoule per meter cube, which means they are asking the modulus of toughness. It is a 2016 set 1 gate 2 mark question. We must know toughness is the ability of a material to absorb energy up to fracture, but it is mathematically or computationally it is measured as the energy absorbed by a member just before its fracture. So just by determining the strain energy absorbed by a member just before fracture, we can find the toughness of the material. Toughness is total area of load versus deformation curve. Why load versus deformation curve? We know that work done is given as load into deformation or load into displacement. So we are finding the total area of load versus deformation curve to find the toughness. This load versus deformation curve total area must be found up to the fracture point to determine toughness. Up to fracture point is the main point. Okay, what is modulus of toughness? It is toughness per unit volume. This can be given as total area of stress versus strain curve. Stress in terms of megapascal or pascal, whereas strain has no unit. But here you must note that engineering strain is given in percentage. If in a hurry you forget this percentage and just consider stress and strain and you calculate, you will be missing in 100 values. That is, there will be a small calculation error. So note the diagram clearly. Here it is given as engineering stress in megapascal and engineering strain in percentage. So we need to find the total area up to S to find the modulus of toughness. So in here they have asked us toughness. So I have noted it as toughness is equal to, first we are having a triangle up to 0.2 100. So we are finding it as half BH. We know that it is given in percentage. So we are dividing it by 0.2 by 100 into 100. Similarly, the next QR, and this segment is considered as a trapezium, and I have considered 100 plus 140 by 2 into 0.4 by 100. This is area of a trapezium. And again RS, and this up to the bottom. Here also I have considered it as a trapezium, and 140 plus 130 by 2 into 0.2 by 100, you will be getting 0.85 as the answer. That is, the toughness is 0.85 megajoule per meter cube. A cantilever beam of length L and flexural modulus, that is flexural rigidity EI, is subjected to a point load P at the free end. The elastic strain energy stored in the beam due to bending, that is neglecting transverse shear due to the shear load, is they have asked the elastic strain energy stored in the beam due to bending alone. It is a 2017 set to gate 1 mark question. First, we must know strain energy of a beam under bending. It is generally given as 0 to L m square dx by 2EI. We have seen for torsional rigidity GJ here, and for axial load we have seen axial rigidity AE. So here we are using flexural rigidity for bending EI, and here you have seen for torsion a torque, and for an axial loading axial load, and for bending here we are using the moment, that is the bending moment m, and this is the length as the same as in previous cases. So 0 to L m square dx by 2EI gives the strain energy of a beam under bending. Here is the setup which they have given, and I have demonstrated it using a pic. This P causes a moment at a cross section S, Px. So similarly at any cross section it will be x into the load, that is the distance into the load. So shear force P causes a varying bending moment throughout the length of the beam. It is not constant, so you can't take m squared by 2EA outside. So you have to consider Px as the moment, Px whole squared into dx by 2EA. Upon solving, you will be getting P squared L cube by 6EI to be the answer. A steel bar is held by two fixed supports as shown in the figure, and it is subjected to an increase of temperature delta T 100 degrees Celsius. If the coefficient of thermal expansion and Young's modulus of elasticity of steel are 11 into 10 power minus 6 per degree Celsius and 200 gigapascal respectively, the magnitude of thermal stress in megapascal induced in the bar is. From the setup, it is clear that it is a completely restricted expansion in one direction. It is a 2017 set to gate 1 mark question. Since the details, that is the data is clear, it is easier to substitute. We know that the thermal stress in the case of completely restricted expansion in one direction is alpha delta E. We know that delta E is 100 degrees Celsius they have given, so you are using 100. For alpha it is 11 into 10 power minus 6 per degree Celsius, so it is 11 into 10 power minus 6, and for E it is 200 gigapascal. They have asked in megapascal, so 200 into 10 power 3, just by substituting and solving you will be getting 220 to be the answer.